and welcome to a special edition of Logistics Unplugged. I'm your host, Brian Blaylock, and today we're doing something a little different. We're bringing together leaders from across the LTL carrier space for an inside look at the challenges, innovations, and conversations that are shaping the future of freight. So today, in part one of the LTL Carrier Summit, let's pull back the curtain, take a look under the hood, and hear directly from the carriers moving freight across the country every day. To kick it off, we're going to be hearing from Southeastern Freight Lines. I couldn't be more excited to have you gentlemen here, and I'm going to just take a quick minute and ask each of you to do a quick introduction. We'll start with you, Cleet.
Cleet Cordero, Vice President of Pricing and Traffic, and have been at Southeastern for 15 years.
Sounds good. Toby, you can pick it up from there.
Sure. Toby Taburin, Director of 3PL National Accounts. I have been with Southeastern for 10 years.
And Keith, that leaves it to you.
It leaves it to me. My name is Keith Huggins. I'm our Vice President of National Sales, and I just started at Southeastern Freight Lines 31 years ago.
Just 31 years. So you're still a rookie.
Still a rookie.
Okay. Well, after they make 31 payments, I think they keep you at that point, right?
I think so, too.
I just hit that in my marriage, 31 years.
Me
so
too.
Good timing.
94.
Well done. Well done. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Me too.
So good stuff. And before we get started with the couple of quick questions, and again, I really appreciate you guys being here. I want to get a little bit of the footprint or history that got you into logistics. And Cleet, I'm going to lean on you for this first. Talk to me about your path. How'd you wind up here? Is this what we thought we were going to do when we were a kid and we were on the playground and we were trying to figure out a job? And we have someone cracking me up on the sidelines here, Cleet. So you got some tough company, buddy. What was it going to be?
I see that. My story is probably more unique, probably be different. My grandfather actually was in Cuba and came to the United States to play Major League Baseball. So Major League Baseball got him out of Cuba to play baseball. This is in the 50s. So you didn't make the money then that you did now.
Yeah.
So in the off season, he actually worked on a trucking facility, LTL carriers dock, is PIE. He went into a trailer. Somebody didn't chalk the trailer right, so the trailer shot away from the dock, forklift fell on his legs and crushed him.
Oh, wow.
And so he was, he'd been in Major League for 2 years. When he was over here, Cuba had fallen, Castro had taken over, so he couldn't go back. And so I guess because he was hurt at PIE, he stayed there and made a career out of it. My father was in trucking, and so I think that's all I was allowed to do. And ironically, my wife's father was also in trucking, so.
Wow. Yeah. You might be the first person that sat in that seat that actually can honestly say, I probably did know this is what I was going to do.
That's it. Yeah, didn't know anything else.
That's one of the best stories I've heard since I've been sitting here. Thank you for that, Clayton. So you got some hard ground to cover after that one, Toby, but you want to take us next?
Sure. Well, trucking was not my dream. It was not what I anticipated to do in my career, even though I am technically a third-generation trucker. Both my grandfather and father were both senior executives in the LTL trucking world.
Okay.
And somewhat similar to Cleet, my story involves baseball. My dream was to play professional baseball, played baseball in college, and God had a different path for my life.
Absolutely.
Spent my college and graduate school years working on the Southeastern freight docks, both inbound and outbound. And then after graduate school, spent almost 20 years in the nonprofit sector.
Wow.
Before I decided to make the leap into the for-profit sector. And when I did that, I knew Southeastern very well. I knew their culture. I knew their leadership. And so I didn't look any further than Southeastern Freight Lines. Wow. Now, both my father and grandfather were on the operational side of the LTL trucking world. And I knew that I didn't want to go into operations.
Okay.
Having watched that lifestyle for many, many years. So when I did join Southeastern Freight Lines, I chose the sales route, and 10 years later, the rest is kind of history.
Rest is history. I love it.
Yes, sir.
So we're 2 for 2 on Born for the role. So I guess that takes us to you finally, Keith. What's 31 years? What was the story before those 31 years?
I'm still not really sure what I was born for, but when I was in college, I came home to see my brother for a long weekend to get away from. I went to an all-male military college. So
was that GMC in
pardon?
Millersville, Georgia?
No, it was actually the Citadel in Charleston,
the Citadel,
South Carolina.
Way bigger school.
And so I was looking for a respite, and so came to Columbia to spend the weekend with my brother. At the time, he was in a neighborhood, and they were having a block party in his neighborhood. And one of his neighbors happened to be the vice president of sales for Southeastern Freight Lines. And so he goes, look, why don't you come over to the block party, get a barbecue sandwich, and then you can go do what you want to do. And so I went over. They had a beach band playing, and I grew up along the coast. The state dance of South Carolina is the shag, so all good South Carolina boys know how to do that. And but Chuck couldn't dance at all. And but his wife loved to dance, and so he met me and said, do you know how to shag? I said, well, I do. I just met this guy. I do. He goes, well, you dance with my wife. And I was like, this is really odd, for us to have this conversation. And so I did. I danced with Terry for a couple of songs, and we ended up having a beverage in the evening. And 2 months later, I was in Columbia interviewing, and the rest is history.
That is some great history. So we might sort of be 3 for 3 there. Plus, we got to end it on some barbecue and a beach bash.
Indeed,
so
indeed.
How can you make a better decision than that? I love it. So listen, that's great history on all of you. I actually didn't know any of that, so I'm really excited that I got to learn that about you. And I guess the little piece that we want to put together today for this conversation is help us understand what makes a good relationship. And I'm going to take 2 pieces of that between a carrier and a shipper, and also between a carrier and a 3PL. And we're going to go in the same order. We'll take it around the horn. We'll start with you, Cleet.
My answer would be the same for both of them, for both a shipper and a 3PL. I'd use the word transparency. I think in any relationship, if both parties can be transparent with each other, collaborate, try to figure out how to take out whether you want to say it's waste or inefficiencies. That when I look back at the true partners we have, it's because both sides are transparent. It's our president likes to say a lot of times, if you make it a win-win situation, that's good. But whenever it becomes, does not become a win-win for either party, then it's okay to part ways. So I think as long as it's transparent where both sides can win, then it's a good partnership.
That's a perfect answer. I couldn't agree with you more. Cleet, thank you for that. Toby, ball's in your court.
Sure.
You guys are baseball fans.
Yeah.
I'm going to approach this more from the 3PL side of things, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I hear a lot of talk in the 3PL sector about carrier agnosticism, remaining agnostic towards the carrier on behalf of the customer. And I have found in my seat, both as a 3PL national account manager and in a leadership role, that the best relationships between 3PLs and carriers are those relationships that move from agnosticism to advocacy. Advocacy, I've always found that our 3PLs are quick to desire and request advocacy from their 3PL partners when they need it.
Right.
And I think healthy reciprocity when it comes to advocacy on the 3PL side is really the opportunity where 3PLs can differentiate themselves as it relates to the relationship with their carriers.
I love that. And it's interesting, that sort of reminded me a little bit with you, Cleet, on making sure that things work, right? So making sure that it's the right relationship. Beautiful answers. And we're going to finish up, Keith, with you on that. So, and you can take both sides, either side, you choose.
Like Cleet, I believe they're both very similar, and my teammates did a good job giving good answers. I'd say probably 3 things. The first thing I would say is probably authenticity, and that goes with the transparency piece that Cleet talked about earlier. Just making sure we're getting, good, clear, unvarnished communication going both ways. That's a big deal. The second thing I would say is reciprocity. I want to know that the 3PL, their customers, is working as hard to make this relationship work as we are, and the better partnerships have 2 people really on the same side of the table trying to make it better, like a marriage.
I like it.
And the last thing you're going to have is profitability. We're not .org.
Yeah.
We're .com. We don't have any red crosses on the side of our trucks.
Yeah.
And last time I checked, you guys aren't a non-for-profit or a nonprofit either. So we both got to make money along the way to make it work.
Absolutely. I like it. And, usually when that happens, we wind up taking a lot better care of the customers at the other end of that transaction.
Absolutely.
So I have one quick question for you gentlemen, and I've asked this to quite a few people, and I've get some good answers, get some not as good answers, but I'm going to hold you guys, the bar pretty high for you. And this is the important question for the day. What's your favorite trucking song? And we're going to go right back through the order. We're going to start with you, Cleet, and we're going to work our way back over to Keith.
Okay. Mine's easy. It's Dixieland Delight by Alabama.
I love it.
So yeah,
I love it. Great choice. All right. I actually think that got one vote for us on a previous show. So
he's probably a Tennessee fan. So
yeah, there you go
yeah.
for sure. I love it. All right. So ball's in your court, Toby.
All right. Well, my favorite trucking song would be the theme song from Smokey and the Bandit, Eastbound and Down by Jerry Reed.
The legend.
Yes, sir.
I love it. Fantastic choice. And in full transparency, that's the one I gave the last time we had this conversation.
Great.
So well played, sir. And then that just leaves it to you, Keith.
I'm going with the trucking classic, Sammy Hagar's I Can't Drive 55.
Oh,
If we only drove 55, we'd never make all the deliveries we got to make for Bluegrass.
oh, okay. I like it. I Can't Drive 55 before Sammy thought he was in Van Halen.
That's right. That's right.
Well done. I appreciate it, gentlemen. We look forward to the next time.
Thank you.
Great stuff from Southeastern Freight Lines. Thanks, folks. Now we're excited to get started with a conversation with Roadrunner Freight. I'm thrilled today to be joined by two good friends from Roadrunner, Phil and Tu, and I'm going to have you introduce yourselves and tell them a little bit about your role at Roadrunner. And Phil, let's start with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Phil Latwell, I'm the Vice President of 3PL Sales at Roadrunner. Been with the organization now coming up on 2.5 years and lead the efforts of our 3PL sales team and working with partnerships like Blue Grace and others.
Love it. And Tu, bring us home.
Hi, my name's Tuvu. I'm the Director of Pricing, and I've been with Roadrunner for 2.5 years as well.
Sounds good. So we've got a couple of quick things we want to talk about. Then I'm going to probably hit you guys with a little bit of a curveball at the end. So just to let you know that. But I wanted, before we get into the logistics questions, that's always great. But I wanted to start with a little bit of your history, kind of the how do we get from there to here, wherever there is, and we know where we're at now. So it can be, if you want, it can be the story of how you wound up in logistics, how you wound up in Roadrunner, what you thought you were going to do. You know, did we want to be a superhero? Did we want to be a law enforcement, fire person? What did we want to do, and how did we wind up here, right? Because I don't sit around in a room and with kids and hear them all say, you know, when I grow up, I want to be in logistics. They might want to drive a truck. That's kind of cool, but the sides of the fence that we all sit on, I don't hear that as much. So I want to hear about that journey. So we're gonna flip it around. Tu, we're gonna start with you this time.
Okay. I was born in Hanoi, Vietnam, came to the U.S. when I was 16 to learn English, went to college and learned management information system, thinking I would be going to tech.
Okay.
But I got a job at YRC Freight doing territory management, and that's how I got into logistic, and it's been great since.
Okay. So if I was to back you up a little bit before you said statistics and
Management information system.
okay, got it. Okay, and was that part of the dream when you were a kid? Was that where you thought you were going, or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like it. So Phil, you're gonna have to follow that up, and you're gonna have to tell us your origin story.
Sure. So, in fairness, growing up as a kid, I did always want to be in business. I didn't necessarily know what that meant, but I just knew that I wanted to do something in business. And so actually, my wife and I, we started a family very early, so which means I worked throughout the day, and then I went to college at night. And when I was working throughout the day in college, I was actually working on a receiving dock for a now defunct kind of grocery warehouse in the Cincinnati area. And we had a driver that would come in from ABF Freight. Okay. And we bonded over our love for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, he was a great guy. And over time, he's like, hey, we kind of hired dumb kids like you coming out of college for this management trainee program. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but sounds great. And so kind of one thing led to another. And next thing you know, I started as a management trainee right out of University of Cincinnati for ABF Freight and had the fortune to spend 19 years with that great organization. And, then had the opportunity to transition over to Roadrunner and lead their 3PL sales team. And they've made a lot of changes over the years. And so it's been great to be part of that journey for, like I said, for the last couple of years.
That's awesome. And so you were a Reds fan growing up too?
Reds fan growing up for sure. Bengals, Ohio State football. I know that can be hit or miss with some folks here. So, but go Buckeyes, national champions.
Nothing wrong with that. So we have one logistics question, then we're going to have the more important question at the end to bring this home. But I want to talk about what makes for a strong carrier shipper relationship. But if you would, both of you, I'd like you to take that to the next step of what makes a good carrier 3PL relationship. And whichever one of you wants to take it first.
Great. Yeah, I'll take it. So I have worked exclusively with 3PLs for the last, going on 8 years now. And so my answer is probably going to be too long, or I've got so many things I would want to say, but if I can just keep it somewhat simple and concise is, there's got to be a partnership, I think, at the highest levels within the organizations. I think there has to be respect amongst the teams. I think there has to be empathy for both parties. But there's got to be a willingness to partner and understand that, hey, not every carrier is the same. Not every logistics company is the same. And just to find out, where it makes the most sense, and then have that support and be willing to kind of carry that flag throughout the organization. In Roadrunner's case, right, we're in this process of this transformation within our organization. And so not everybody understands the changes that we've made over the years and where we're at as an organization. But working with companies like Blue Grace and others that are willing to support that and know that, hey, there's a great value that can be had by utilizing Roadrunner and the efforts and what we're doing now as an organization. And just to have that, that partnership and willingness to do that is great. Hosting events like, the one we're on right now, to be honest, this has been a great collaborative effort to have those type of open discussions for us to be able to talk through, hey, what we were looking for with our logistics partners, and then also what you guys need out of your carrier partners. And, there's so many times that you can get to these events and it's more of a commercial as to why you should be working with this company, as opposed to, hey, how do we really get down into the granular aspects and really work closely together with one another? So.
Great answer, and I love that. And I've actually enjoyed watching the journey with Roadrunner and some of the exciting things that you guys have had happening. And too, before I throw it over to you, I wouldn't be myself if I didn't point out that I've always thought that's the coolest name in logistics. And it was a little bit sad that there's no Coyote Roadrunner rivalry that I can set up here now. But it's an awful lot of fun watching it, and now it's all on you two.
For me, from pricing perspective, I would say communications and accurate data. Blue Grace does a great job at giving us pictures, dim, weight, dimensions, so that give us accurate pricing and we can provide competitive rates. So certainly that's make great partnerships.
Absolutely, and you definitely done that, so we do appreciate it. And I also appreciate you guys being here, and I'm going to appreciate the one last indulging question that I'm going to ask you, which is going to put you on the spot, but it's super important. And two, I'm looking at you. This one's coming to you first. So what is your number one favorite trucking song? And it can be a song about trucking, or it can be what you'd want to listen to if you were behind the wheel.
I'm going to go with the classics, On the Road Again.
I love it. Little Willie Nelson. All right. Well done, too. Well, you got a hard act to follow, Phil, but see if you can bring us home.
Yeah, so, throughout my life, I've always been a big Alabama fan. I finally had the chance to see them in concert about 1.5 years ago, so I'm going to go with Roll On 18-Wheeler.
I love it. That is a great song, great group, great choice, great team. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everything that you just said about what we're doing here this week. We appreciate the relationship. We appreciate you guys taking the time out to be able to come and visit here. And we appreciate you taking the time to come sit with us and let us have this chat today. Thank you, Roadrunner. Now let's get ready to have a great conversation with FedEx Freight. And it is my pleasure to be joined today by Bill Bishop from FedEx. And Bill, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about you.
All right. Well, thank you. So, my name is Bill Bishop. I'm a manager, a global sales manager with FedEx, Transportation Intermediary Sales. I'm based out of Connecticut, and I'm about to celebrate 29 years at FedEx.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, 29 years at FedEx, which is going to lead me to my first question, right? So we did something high school, something college. We played around and tried to figure out what we were going to do when we grew up. What was it you thought you were going to do? You've been at FedEx for 29 years. What did you think you were going to do when you were a kid and you were making that career path?
I had no idea, actually.
Okay, so, that's fair. Anything on the wish list?
Professional athlete, maybe, but I was nowhere near that.
Yeah, I think we all want that one at least.
Yeah. Well, when I got to college, I was trying to figure out what to study, and I guess I just stumbled upon business administration.
Yeah.
Since my dad had worked in business, and I didn't really know where that would go.
Okay. And then how did you migrate from that over to FedEx? What made you make the jump there?
Well, so I worked for another trucking company
Okay.
for about 6 or 7 years before FedEx.
Okay.
And that's sort of the start of the story. So why I was busy not knowing what I was going to do senior year in college, once I graduated, there were interviews on campus, and Central Transport was interviewing on campus, and I said, sure, I'll sign up. I'll go ahead and talk to them. And I still remember, so it was my senior year. The interview was March 18th. I knew that because it was the day after St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
And I also knew that because...
how were you feeling during that interview, by the way?
I'll tell you in a second. I went to Providence College in Rhode Island, and we had made the NCAA tournament that year. And the first round was that Thursday night, March 17th.
Man.
Providence was in. So it was a long day. I think, we would go to class, and then we'd go back to the dorm and have some beers, and then go to class again. One of those days until the game was on, type thing. And so I had the interview the next day. I better get to bed early, but I don't think I did.
Yeah.
So the next day in the interview, it turned out the gentleman who was interviewing me was a guy by the name of Jim Rafferty.
Oh, wow.
And who many people at Blue Grace know.
Yeah.
That he retired from Central Transport about a year ago. So Jim was interviewing me, and he had celebrated St. Patrick's Day also.
Okay. So
Jim,
you're on the same page on that one.
And he was also a Providence grad.
Oh,
so he had also
double
watched
jeopardy.
The game. Yeah. So I think we were very much in the same mindset when it came to the interview. It was really just like a talk and not an interview. And we got along really well. And then a couple weeks later, I heard from him and saying, hey, when you graduate, let's talk and we'll see about putting you to work. So a couple months later, after I graduated, he's like, yeah, you're going to be a dock supervisor. And that's how I started. And I was there almost 7 years. And then as FedEx was looking to go into the LTL business, it was how I got over into FedEx.
Great. So been here for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Started off in some very quiet voices in a interview on a very rough day. So great start to it. I appreciate that. So I got one real business question for you today, and that's this. In a nutshell, tell me what makes for a good shipper-carrier relationship, and a part B, if you don't mind, what makes for a good carrier 3PL relationship?
Sure. On the first one, of course, from the carrier side, we like the shippers that want to be a shipper of choice, that are easy to do business with, and lower your cost to serve, and aren't beating you up, and have some sort of loyalty there so that they don't leave you. They don't switch for, a 2-cent saving.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. And regarding a 3PL and a carrier, the one word that comes to mind is trust.
Absolutely.
And I heard that mentioned this morning, in the presentation with Jason and Adam. And I was thinking that before they said it.
Right.
So I didn't just borrow
You didn't
from
just
them
steal off their
and say,
paper.
yeah, I'll use that. But it really is. It's trust that we're going to have a working partnership. And again, that loyalty, so that if there's a problem, they just don't jump ship, that we're there for them to resolve the issues, to work through problems together, that we take a collaborative approach. I mean, we just met with Bobby, and he's asking us, what can we do better?
Right.
And that's just indicative of the trust you have, that they're humble enough to say, what can we do? Rather than just other 3PLs might just beat us up and nitpick us over everything we don't do perfectly. But having that to grow our businesses together, and also have a friendship that knows we can work through any rough times, and then also just plan to prosper together into the future.
That's a fantastic answer, Bill. Even if you did copy it out someone else's paper. But no, I hear you, and some of those things that you added to the end are one of the reasons that I enjoy being here too. So, Bill, that was the serious question, but we still have one more piece to bring this home, and it's very important. What is your favorite trucking song?
Okay, well, it would have to be Convoy, and I forget who the artist was. Was it C.W. McCoy or someone like that? And I think when I was, I don't know how young I was, very young, single digits, but it was the first 33 single album I bought for myself with my own money that went to the record store in the mall.
That's destiny right there. If your first piece of music that you bought was Convoy, you had to wind up in this industry.
And it might have been that senior year in college that the song was playing in my head, and I saw a trucking company was coming. Like, that's my destiny.
I like it. I like it. Well said. Bill, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me while you're here, and I also can't thank you enough for being here and for the relationship that we have. So that's a wrap. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Team FedEx. Now let's get ready to chat with our friends at T-Force. It is my absolute pleasure to be joined by two great members of the T-Force team. I've got with me Judd Mumford and Nathan Leonard, and I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself. Judd, why don't you start?
Sure. Thank you, Brian. My name is Judd Mumford. Been with T-Force about 30 years.
Just a minute or two, huh?
Just a minute or two. I manage our 3PL department.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Nathan, you bring us in.
Yeah, Nathan Leonard. I've been with T-Force just a little over a year and a half. Got close to 30 years in the industry. So been at it for a little while as well. And I'm the vice president of pricing and customer experience, and have marketing, pricing, rating, billing, and the pricing implementation group.
Wonderful. Well, listen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you both being here this week and taking the time to sit down with me today. So I really do appreciate it. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of trace out, before we ask kind of one business question on this, I want to ask you a little bit about how you wound up on your journey getting to where you're at with T-Force. So it can be either direction you want to take it. So we'll start with you, Nathan, and we can start with what did I want to do when I was still in school, trying to figure out what the path was going to be, or however deep in the direction you want to take it. But how do we get from there, wherever there is, to here?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in northwest Arkansas, Harrison, Arkansas. It's the city in which American Freightways originated.
Okay.
So I got my start there, but I originally, out of high school, dropped out of college for a manager job at a grocery store.
Okay.
And thought, I don't think I really need school. So just wanted to go to work. And then, American Freightways was really the location or the place that everybody wanted to work, right? You could make the most money at American Freightways. So I knew nothing about trucking. I just knew I wanted to make more money.
More money. I like it.
So I finally, got on at American Freightways, ended up going back to school. After that, got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. Spent 25 years there at American Freightways, which became FedEx Freight. Transitioned from there to the vice president of pricing at Yellow for about 2 years, and then transitioned over in September of 23 into the vice president of pricing at T-Force Freight.
Great. So early on, it was just the money.
That's right.
And then back to school, so we can get a little more of that.
That's right.
And then a great history leading you to the door you're in now. So thanks for that roadmap, Judd. Why don't you lead us down the same road?
Well, I grew up around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Immediately out of high school, joined the Army for 4 years. Went to college at Penn State University, State College, Pennsylvania. Took some logistics courses at Penn State. And actually, I wanted to go into the FBI. I took the FBI test. That didn't quite pan out.
Okay.
Then I liked the logistics courses. My cousin had worked at Roadway Express, so I started in operations at Roadway Express. Worked there a couple years. Went across the street to Carolina Freight Carriers. Worked in operations. They went through their downsizing and acquisition by EBF. I took a layoff rather than being transferred and joined the overnight transportation team in sales.
Okay.
Went through all the acquisitions. At that time, overnight was owned by Union Pacific Railroad. They then were spun off through their own IPO, then purchased by UPS, and now by TFI International.
Okay. So both of you had nice little trails that led you into the doors that you're in now. You've been in the door a little bit longer there, Judd. So welcome. Of course, that FBI list, every now and then it probably feels a little bit like that in logistics when we're trying to solve some of the mysteries and issues that we find there. So thank you both for that. And I want to ask you one more straightforward business question, which is this. What makes to you a strong carrier-shipper relationship? And I'm going to ask you to maybe take that one step further and tell me what makes for a strong carrier 3PL relationship. And we'll do the same word. Nathan, we'll start with you on that.
Yeah, I think from the shipper side, really, it's just transparency, right? As from the carrier, you want to be as transparent as you can be with your shipper. Data information is obviously very important, right? That drives a lot of the different metrics and components of the relationship. So again, coming from the pricing organization, right? We're all about data and how can we get the best data to make the best decisions so that there's no surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't fix it if you can't measure it, right?
That's right.
I love it. So same question to you, Judd. Tell me what makes for both of those relationships.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's got to be a symbiotic relationship. It's got to be give and take, back and forth. Has to work out for both parties. Definitely has to be win-win. I think honesty's a big part of it as well. There's plenty of 3PL business, so I think it's a matter of picking out what works for both parties and winning together.
I like it. And you also pulled out the first $5 Scrabble word of the day with symbiotic, so I will be using that later. Guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, but before you leave me, I've got one burning question that is probably the most important question of the day. Excuse me. And that is, what is your favorite trucking song? So I'm going to let you marinate on that for a second. And Nathan, you're on deck, and Judd, you're in the hole waiting to go next.
Yeah, I would say mine is life is a highway, right? I mean, if you think about life is always throwing different challenges and obstacles at you. Trucking's pretty much the same thing, right? You never know what you're going to get, and it's always something new. So I think that kind of, again, plays into life and trucking at the same time, just not knowing what those unexpected challenges are going to be.
Great answer. I love it. So Judd, it's all on you now. You gotta bring us home strong.
It's not a struggle. Mine is a Convoy.
I like it. Convoy is a 3-time winner, right, Milvia? We're doing good with Convoy. Great movie, great soundtrack, very good. Guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. I appreciate you having a good sense of humor, indulging me, sitting down with us for a great chat. And I thank all the listeners for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Great stuff from T-Force. Now let's get ready to have a little more conversation with our friends at Saia. I'm excited to be joined today by two of our good friends from Saia, Ross Akers and Jacob Breeding, and I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself. Ross, why don't you start?
Yeah, Ross Akers. I'm the director of 3PL sales at Saia.
Jacob?
Yeah, I'm Jacob Breeding. I'm the director of pricing at Saia.
Great. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys being here this week, and I appreciate you being here and indulging me and sitting down for a few minutes so we can have a great discussion. And I promise this will be fast and painless. We just want to learn a little bit about you and let the folks learn a little bit about you. So we're gonna start with the history of you, and it can be as short or as long as you'd like to make it, because I want to know what gets someone from where they start, whether it's what I wanted to do when I grow up, what I thought I was going to do when I was in school, to what that next step was and how you got to Saia. And Ross, we're going to start with you on that one.
Well, this is going to go off the rails pretty quickly because this is not a very linear way to logistics. But I actually originally went to school on a golf scholarship for a little small Division III school, and then that transitioned into a theater degree, specifically musical theater. No, I'm not going to sing.
Those are some different rails.
Right. So naturally, it was a total fit for logistics.
Absolutely.
I think maybe logistics sales, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so I actually began my career at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So again, we were figuring it out over a long period of time. I was running a Enterprise Rent-A-Car branch and got called by a recruiter that said, do you want to think about doing logistics sales? And I knew nothing about it. I went on the interview, liked what I heard, and have been at SIA for the last 12 years and have really enjoyed my time. And I now know more about logistics than I ever cared to know.
Than you ever thought you'd know.
And I had to learn it all painstakingly hard because there was not much I could pull from my theater or golf or rental car background to help me along the way. But I've had good people that have helped me throughout my career, and it's a fascinating industry, that's for sure.
I like it. That is an interesting journey there. I appreciate that. How's your golf game? Still good?
It's okay. With two kids and travel and all that stuff, it definitely takes a hit. But
takes a little course time away.
I can still swing it a little bit.
Okay, very good. Well, listen, that's an interesting path. It's probably a little different from some of the ones I've heard. That's exciting. Jacob, you got a hard road to follow now.
Yeah, can't follow that one. But no, I worked at a Papa John's franchise all through high school and college, and
so delivering pizza instead of goods, right?
Delivering pizza, making pizza, managing stores, and I thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I went to the University of Georgia, got a business degree, actually moved out to Montgomery, Alabama, and ran 6 stores for about 2.5 years. And then I got married, and my wife realized she didn't like Montgomery, and she didn't like me working
no offense,
nights and
Montgomery.
weekends. Yeah, but I think the nights and weekends really took a toll on her. So we actually had a family friend that worked at SIA. I didn't even know how to pronounce SIA. They were looking for pricing analysts, and so I joined the national account pricing analyst team about 10.5 years ago. Made my way through being a national account pricing analyst to managing the 3PL pricing team, and then now I'm the director of pricing. But what I always tell people when I'm bringing people on to the department is, especially if they're coming from outside the industry, like my first day, I went home and told my wife we made a huge mistake. They're speaking another language and I don't understand it, and I'm not a dumb person, so that was something that I had to kind of come to terms with, and learning something entirely new.
I like it. So, whatever strange roads we started, whether it's on the golf course or through theater or through Papa John's, I'm glad you guys wound up where you're at, and we appreciate the relationship that we have. So appreciate those stories. Thanks for sharing that. And we have a second question, which is pretty simple, which is, what do you think makes for a strong carrier-shipper relationship? And I'm going to ask you to kind of take that one more step to a strong carrier or 3PL relationship. And Ross, we'll start with you.
I mean, I think it really boils down to problem resolution and the communication surrounding it, right? So shippers have problems, carriers have problems. How well can they align those two things to solve each other's heartaches, right? That's what I think. It's almost, kind of like a marriage, right? Is that you're not perfect the day you get married. Is after years of, who's washing the dishes tonight, who's cooking dinner tonight, who's taking the kids. Is over time you build this relationship that is, you identify a problem, you both come at it with a solution that moves the process forward, and the relationship matures and it gets better over time, and it is mutually beneficial for all parties involved. So I think that the same holds true with a 3PL. It's just another kind of person in that mix, right? That kind of helps facilitate that interaction across all 3 channels, right? And maybe probably clarifies and simplifies that message. It's because it's interesting to speak to shippers, to speak to 3PLs. That's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to solve problems so that we can satisfy our customers, so that we can make money in business and we can have a good relationship. We don't want to be exchanging customers all the time. Like if we can provide these solutions, we're going to create these sticky relationships over time. So I think that's really most of what it boils down to for me.
I like it. Great answer. And my wife would tell you after 31 years, I still haven't quite struck perfect yet, but we're working toward that, right? So,
always working on you.
Always working on it. You got it. Jacob, same question.
Yeah, I think on the shipper side, it's probably mostly education as it relates to LTL. Not all shippers have a great grasp of the way LTL pricing works, the way that rates are structured. So I think a lot of it has to do with education. On the 3PL side, it's probably transparency. We're always going to have something that, on both sides, we're both going to have something we want to hold closer to the vest. But the more information we can have, the more information you can have, the better we can come to a solution.
I think that's absolutely true. And I appreciate both those answers. And guys, I appreciate you being here today, but we have one more burning question, and it's the most important question of the day. All right. So, Ross, pressure's on. Your favorite trucking song?
So it's not. I mean, it's. Do you consider a tractor a truck? I mean, kind of, right?
I could go with that.
So I'm gonna pick "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy" by Kenny Chesney. I think sometimes people say this industry isn't sexy, so I would like to put that as my stamp for my favorite trucker song.
I gotta say that might be the funniest song I've heard all day. So I appreciate that, bringing that one home for me. So, Jacob, buddy, you're in trouble now. What do you got for me?
I had to Google it, but I think I'll say "Roll On" by Alabama.
That is a great choice. You did a good job with your Googling. So, do you know the song, or did you?
I know the song.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
all right. That's fair.
sitting here
He
couldn't
said something
think of
about
anything.
singing it, I think.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to the music.
You
music
are
director.
required to prove that now, Jacob, in a court of law, or at least on the podcast. So, actually, I don't think you can, because I think we'd probably have to pay for the rights in. So maybe we better hold on to that one. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. That's a wrap on part 1 of our special edition LTL Carrier Summit here on Logistics Unplugged. Huge thanks to all our guests for kicking off the conversation with real-world insights and industry perspective. We've only scratched the surface, though, so be sure to catch part 2, where we dive even deeper into the challenges and opportunities that are shaping the future of LTL.